The next special report tonight is the budget presentation for the 22-23 school level budgets. So we have our 3 building principals presenting tonight. The principals will do 2 things. First, they will highlight the continuation of program that we have committed to with the 22-23 budget, along with our second item, which is any substantial changes that we have planned for their respective buildings. So I will call up Ms. Hunger first from BRS to get us started.
So thank you so much for having me here this evening. Before we started, I think this is the first Board of Ed meeting that I've been at that the children who are recognized, I know them. And it was a pretty special thing of why working in a district like Pleasantville and in a small district is such a magical thing, especially at an elementary level when you get to watch them grow up and you just get to sit here with the pride. So I had to just add that in because it was my first moment of seeing a grade that I'm like, I know all of them, and I was super proud of them. Okay, I think I have this the right way. Okay. So up here we have the proposed budget for the Bedford Road School for the 2022-23 school year. You also see up here the current budget from the 2021-22 school year. I want to highlight a couple of changes that you may see up there, some of which I will talk about now and some of which will come up in slides as I'm sharing our proposal for the next school year. So the overall budget for the 2021-22 school year is $181,716, and for the 2022-23 school year, $161,760. If you're looking under the area of contractual services, you will see a decrease in the amount of $21,000. Last year during our budget planning season, which really began in late fall, so you're talking November, December of 2020, we were planning for the 2021-22 school year with a lot of unknowns. And a lot of unknowns around how we really best support students while we were still in the state of the world of so many unknowns with COVID and what school was going to look like. We were still in a hybrid at that point. We feel very fortunate to have had funds available and the flexibility this year to help support our students, and we feel really fortunate to be in a place where we no longer require that level of flexibility under our contractual services to support our students. We're so happy to have them with us every day. We're so happy to have the support of our teachers, our fabulous faculty that we work with, who's really able to provide that support for our students. You'll see also that there's an increase in the supply area that I'll go into in a little bit more detail. But this year we're excited to share we've been doing a lot of work this year in particular around our ELA curriculum, and we're looking to expand some of that work next year, and are looking for the support within our supply line in order to be able to do that. Our projected enrollment for the next school year. We are currently at 568 students at BRS this year. Next year, our projection for kindergarten is 100 students, first grade 101, second grade 108 students, third grade we jump up a bit to 121 students, and fourth grade at about 115, and that brings our projected enrollment to 551. It takes into account where our grades are at right now and trends over, and Mr. Chow, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's over 5 years of summer movement that happens between grades to give us our total for next year. So under staffing, we've requested a permanent substitute teacher. Before I talk about that, I want to take a minute just to highlight the wonderful staff we have at BRS. They are one of a kind. There's not many places when you're looking to highlight your staff that all you seem to find in your phone are pictures of staff dressed up like they're students or dressed up for a special day or a not so special day. We have a new second grade teacher this year, and one of her comments was that she needed a new draw drawer in her dresser now, to just a company we have, Kindness Month, and like everyone on her team has different kind shirts for the whole month. So now she has 5 Be Kind shirts. We have lots of different things, and our staff is just, they're dedicated, they're caring, they're nurturing. It's really everything you'd want for an elementary, school teacher. This year, we feel fortunate to have a permanent substitute, and we're looking to put that into our budget for next year. With a permanent substitute teacher, we're able to provide students with consistency in the event that their teacher is not able to be here. And having somebody who is part of our staff also means that that person knows the routines of the school, they know the procedures of the school. If they're with a grade team for an extended period of time, they're part of our grade team planning, so they're intimately tied to the curriculum. And it's really helped this year to provide consistency for our students. This year with some things that have been unpredictable related to COVID, but life happens. And it's been a gift, and it's one that we're looking to make permanent for next year within our budget for our students. As we're looking ahead to our materials and our supplies, the first thing that you can see up there, it says ELA curriculum materials. So this year, we have been focused on our ELA instruction, specifically how we can support our students who are at different levels of reading. So you see one of the pictures up there is one of our teachers pulling small groups. And we've really concentrated on pulling small group instruction and making sure that we have the materials to support that instruction. Depending on the level that the students are at, we want to make sure we have those in all of our classrooms. This year, we've also formed a curriculum team, and it is teachers across grades, as well as representation from our special education department and our curriculum coordinator. We've been meeting throughout the year, and our primary focus of our conversation has been around how do we continue to support our ELA curriculum, reflecting on some of the learning that we've done this year, and where do we go from there? And so going back to that first slide where we spoke about the increase that you see in supplies, our primary increase is to help us focus on ELA materials in the classroom to help continue to support this work. We've seen wonderful things that have come out of this year, of the efforts that we've put in, and having the instructional materials to support that has really been key for our students' success. We feel very fortunate. We have wonderful related arts areas, and this area also goes to help supporting that. I want to highlight art for a minute because as we were thinking ahead to the spring, on May 17th, the art show is back in person this year, and it has been quite a few years since we've been able to do that. And it's just a wonderful night to see all of our student work, and this area really helps to support the fabulous projects that come out of not only that area, but our STEAM program, our physical education program, our library, and our music. And this all comes out of our materials and our supplies, as well as some of our consumables that are in the classroom. Within this area, you also see furniture. We feel fortunate that this year we've been able to bring back some of our rugs into our classroom, and we are optimistically looking towards next year with a focus on collaborative furniture and looking to really have our rugs back in our classroom. How do we help foster that collaboration through table work with students? Again, I am being optimistic that next year we will be in a place where this will be our reality in our classroom. We have a strong belief in providing students with alternate seating, and this area really helps to support some of that work. Under our contractual services, the first thing you'll see under there is conferences. Next year, we're looking to really support our teachers. If we're looking and bringing in some new materials for our ELA, we really want to couple that with professional development for our teachers and finding conferences that help support that work. We've begun looking at some of that this year. For example, our curriculum team, everybody on the team, we're all attending a PD on a conference around the 5 pillars of reading, and having those opportunities for our staff to collaborate together around shared conferences, shared professional development is a wonderful way for us to help continue to grow our practice and have a positive impact on our students. There's other things that are on there that are not as exciting, such as postage, but under there we also have our testing support for our incoming kindergarten screening. And for us, that's a really exciting time of the year. It's our first opportunity to really meet our new students, to connect with them. They get to meet their new teachers. And we try to do it in a really fun and engaging way. We actually explored a new kindergarten screening tool. The one that we had previously used went out of distribution, so it became a really nice and natural time to have a conversation about what do we do going forward. And so we are having our dry run, where one of us is going to be a student in the upcoming weeks, but this area really helps to support that process. And it's also a great way for those new incoming kindergartners to come in and see the building and actually talk to somebody that's there. So when they come back, there is someone that's a familiar face. And it happens every spring, and it's something that we're getting really excited about.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Great. So with the contractual services, you're like expanding them, but on the other slide, they were decreasing. So what's like an example of something that you don't need anymore that's brought that number way down to save space for other things?
So the contractual services this year, there was a lump sum of money that was put in there, and it was put in to allow us with the flexibility because of what was going on with COVID, that we didn't know what the school year would bring.
Gotcha.
So it allowed us in this area for students who may need a different kind of support. There was so much unknown. Would students be in school? Would we be back in a hybrid? Would we have students who for an extended period of time wouldn't be there? We would have to support them in an alternative way. And that accounts a lot for the decrease that's in there. But yes, if you look on an individual line for conferences, it is an area that we're looking to build some more into so that we can value as we as we partner with the new ELA work and some of the supplies coming in, to also have the support there for our staff to be effective in what they're delivering.
I just want to clarify too, thank you. I think you hit it spot on. Those slides are budgeted amounts, not actuals.
Sure, no, I understand.
So the change is not necessarily reflective of losing something other than sort of readjusting for the new time frame.
Right.
So, thank you.
But we all, a lot of people don't know exactly what the word contractual means.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes it's just software contracts, right?
Yes, lots of things that can fall under one umbrella.
Under one umbrella, right.
So under our professional development and our BOCES services, the one area I would really like to highlight is our cultural arts programs and our partnerships. It is something that makes BRS really unique and really speaks to the culture of our building. We feel so fortunate that we have BOCES programs that couple with our curriculum. And I'm going to provide an example. This year for our fourth grade, as they were studying their Native American unit, we had an opportunity for an artist to perform different songs. And it really helped to bring the unit to life for our students. They looked up lyrics, they wanted to know the meaning behind it. And the questions that came from it really helped to bring the curriculum alive for our students. We have partnerships today. Our second graders all walked over to ARC Stages. They participated in their playwright program. They got to watch some of the plays be performed. It was a wonderful day. There was a celebration the night prior around the students who kind of won this, but it was a wonderful celebration and partnership for our second graders. They came back so excited for their classmates. They came back so excited about what they saw. And we had animals in our kindergarten class today, and it's just a wonderful way. I would say weekly there is somebody from BOCES, and it's great that throughout the year, each grade level has about 3 or 4 different opportunities through this to really expand the work that they're doing in the classroom. I like to say when you think of elementary school, or at least when I think of my own elementary school experience, these are the things that I remember. And when I think about being a child, this is what you walk away with. And so it's something that's really wonderful and about BRS that I'm looking forward to continuing. On here you'll also see our Science 21 materials. It's the science program that we use, and it's through a BOCES service to get in some of the consumables that we use every year associated with that program. And Mr. Pankava and myself, we belong to the assistant principal and the principals group. It's a great way to connect with other administrators across Westchester County and Putnam County, specifically focused around elementary school. It's a great way to have conversations with your colleagues. It's a great way to discuss current educational trends, if there's issues that are coming up, and really have the support of your colleagues throughout some of these things. So that falls under here as well. And then lastly, our capital improvements. This is not unique to Pleasantville or to BRS, but the reusable water bottles, I think, were a trend starting, and COVID probably just kind of kept that going. And so we're welcoming additional to, water refilling stations throughout the building next year. I know that they will be put to good use. You'll also see on here replacement of classroom chalkboards. So many of our rooms in the front and the back of the room, due to the nature of the time that the building was built, there's a blackboard in the front, there's a blackboard in the back. We're looking at taking a phased approach. So I wrote down phase 1. So looking at one grade level at a time of replacing this with whiteboards and bulletin boards. It'll allow us an opportunity to display more student work that the students really feel pride and connection to as we think about the best way to really utilize our space. The whiteboard will allow teachers to still be able to write and communicate with their students that way, in addition to the interactive whiteboard that's there. But we think that this will be a welcomed addition to the classroom to really help the students feel a connection to the room by having their work being able to be displayed in charts that the teachers are making with them. You'll also see on there, and it's written down again as phase 1, and in conversation with Mr. Chamberlain and Mr. Chow, of thinking around the blinds that are in the building that have been there again since the building was, some classrooms are okay.
Coming up on 20 years. So.
Yeah, it's about 20 years. And in 20 years, some blinds are okay, and other blinds have seen better days. But looking at it as, again, a phased approach, we're concentrating right now and looking at our second floor, which is where our 4th grade is, and we're looking at it from the perspective of where the sun's coming during the day, as well as the proximity to Academy Street, so both from a safety perspective, as well as having students have full access to their room throughout the day. And again, in discussions with them, we're looking at both of these things as a phased approach where over time we'll be able to hit all of the different rooms and their grade levels. And I think that brings to the end of BRS.
Wow. There's
Thank
a
you
lot
very
going
much.
on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
Sorry, I'm taller than Miss Hunger.
Yeah.
Just got to get this going here. Yeah, we're chatting that we have our children going to kindergarten in September, so it's amazing to hear Miss Hunger talk. It's an outstanding elementary school, so it's very exciting. Close to home now. This slide outlines the 5 categories that make up the middle school's budget. There are no significant changes to any of our budget lines apart from, like Ms. Hunger mentioned, contractual services. Luckily, with COVID, much has changed since we developed the previous year's budget. As a result, we have a decrease in contractual services and no longer need that level of flexibility with outside services. Slide number 2, projected enrollment. So our current enrollment at the middle school is 489 students. This slide is an overview of our projected enrollment for next year. We're not projecting any substantial changes in terms of enrollment next year. These numbers are based on the current enrollment that we have of each grade level, in addition to projected new registrants. As Ms. Hunger mentioned, the new registrant number is based on a 5-year average that we run of how many families typically register in the summer and throughout the school year. Next year, we are requesting a 0.52 additional staff member for 7 through 12 science. As you know, John Koziel retired after a 40-year career in Pleasantville. He was a part-time earth science teacher last year, and we hired Jake Sabloski, who's been, for that role, who's been outstanding, and he's done an incredible job. We hired him in the spring of 2021. With a graduating 8th grade class that is larger than normal, approximately 150 students. We do feel it is prudent to increase that role in the event an additional section of earth science is possible. And we also would like Jake to take on an administrative, more substantial role in our highly successful Science Olympiad program. That is a model that other schools have with some of their science staff. Another top 5 finish, I will say. Give them a shout out. Our Science Olympiad numbers are growing. We had almost 40 students in our Science Olympiad team this year. That's grown substantially since Doctors Mateo started the program years ago. Real grassroots effort on their part, but now it's a good problem to have, but it's a juggernaut, as we know, with their highly successful history, and it's very popular. So we will need some more support with the Science Olympiad program. And we also are adding a permanent substitute position. As Ms. Hunger mentioned, with a sub shortage during COVID, and teacher absences substantially increasing, it did highlight the need for a consistent person in the building to fill a role. And as we know, students really crave that consistency, need that consistency. So having that person in the building is a really important step to take next year. And we found that, especially this year, it really paid dividends when we needed it. So we are incredibly proud of our programs. In some of these photos, you can see our civics class on the bottom left for 8th graders, and our STEAM class on the right. A nice screen time break. Quads are a really critical component of our program. Materials and supplies don't just provide core content classes with what they need in terms of their daily supplies, textbooks, workbooks, and the like. But they also supply our quads, again, with materials for hands-on collaborative work, which a lot of our students certainly missed, and you can see that in these photos. Things like Lego robotics, MakerBots in STEAM, clay and paint, in art, food and cookware, in home skills, also some Steps A materials for health, pocket constitutions for civics. These are just some wonderful examples. These courses are also unique to this middle school, and they allow our students to participate in, again, much needed hands-on activities. One-to-one devices are wonderful for all that they offer and provide, but kids still need good old-fashioned hands-on activities. They really need that balance, and we think it's a big part of our wellness initiative and supports the strategic plan. The quad structure is not the norm. Again, it is very unique, and we're really proud of the improved student experience that we've developed over the past few years. Tweaking some quads, developing engineering and design, really bolstering that curriculum in 8th grade, and adding civics this year, a pilot program which has worked out really, really well. Shout out to Ms. Gilroy, too, who teaches a section of that, who was just here earlier. Continuing with wellness, our Steps A program is terrific and now fully supported by the district. BTH really helped Mr. Palumbo and I get that off the ground years ago. But now all 4 grades, every student in the school gets 40 lessons of Steps A before they graduate 8th grade, 10 lessons per year. Grades 7 and 8 is facilitated by our K-12 counselor, Miss Marianne Flatley, and 5-6 is facilitated by Dana O'Brien. I bring that up because she is a vendor who is included in the Contractual Services Code. We also have our professional organizations that our teachers and administrators participate in. As Ms. Hunger mentioned, they really support our work over the past few years. We really leaned on each other as colleagues during tough times, and also just bring tremendous ideas to us that we can potentially use in our school, and we have used many. The photos you see here also were taken of our new front sign, which is, again, another contractual service, and renovated courtyard, which is absolutely incredible. Beautiful. I mean, beautiful. I'm sure that some of you or all of you remember what it used to look like, and it didn't look like that. So really proud of that, and our 5th graders love going out there when they get their pause coupons for lunch. So these are all contractual services that we've utilized and continue to utilize over the years. And they really they really fall into a lot of different buckets, and that's why I wanted to give you some examples of each that we use. Professional development and BOCES services. So this slide highlights a few of the partnerships and organizations that we are a part of. School GPD is critical to our work. It's still very new for us. We have only scratched the surface regarding what this learning management system, in my opinion, can provide to our teachers and students. Randy Hall is an expert and an exceptional trainer who we use from the Lyric regularly. In fact, he'll be joining us on Friday for our superintendent's conference day, leading a workshop with our teachers on learning objectives and using rubrics within Schoology. We are also part of the PNW BOCES Action Collaborative Network, which gives us access to some evidence-based professional learning. They also facilitate leadership development with monthly meetings that we are part of, and all of those meetings are with member districts throughout the region, where systemic strategies are shared in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I do thank Dr. Shigaris for spearheading that effort. This part of the budget also supports the educational programs that our students experience during the annual 7th grade SHARP reservation trip. That's where that photo is of. That student is blindfolded for a reason. It's their sensory, our sensory trail, which is awesome, and that's been a tradition for, I mean, Shane, you could probably tell me how long that's been going on, but since I've been here, which is a long time, that trip has been happening. It's been a fabulous
stayed
trip.
Where we stay there.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Got it. So again, I'll give you some examples of what this particular trip has, though, for our students: fishing, Native American dance, pond study, journal writing, sensory trail, obstacle course. So all of those are in our BOCES line, so that is aidable, and it's a phenomenal trip that we've continued to do, even though it's been a day trip in the past few years. Our students have still been able to experience it, and we've been able to provide them with a great experience. So we're very happy and proud of that. Actually, we're the first ones to go back.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
You know? So I will move on to capital improvements. I added some humor in here for everybody. Because if anybody's been in the middle school during back-to-school night, or hemisphere day, or just in room 219 upstairs, it's hot. And our HVAC at the middle school has been a conversation. Shane and I were talking about this earlier, for as long as I have been here, and again, that's kind of a long time now. I greatly appreciate the board for putting this project on the ballot. We are the only building without a building management system in the district, and I'm hopeful that that changes soon. This project will effectively eliminate some disruptions that our students and staff experience during the day, especially during these incredibly hot months of sometimes September and June. Surprise us with 90-degree days. And in those environments, we do have to relocate to cooler areas, larger areas. Multipurpose room is an example, the cafeteria is an example, the inquiry lab is an example. That's disruptive to the environment of our students and our staff. They don't have the technology they need. They're out of their comfort zone a little bit. And other times we have other classes in there as well, because it's that hot. We can't have students in those classrooms. It's just not right. So it's not healthy for them. So this project will improve our air quality and improve the student and staff experience. So again,
Time,
greatly
space,
appreciate.
and place.
I'm sorry?
Time,
space, and place. I
Yep.
do remember that.
Yeah.
I do remember that. That was our first strategic plan subcommittee that we were part of. And this was brought up.
Yep.
Obviously. So, again, thank you for the support. Capital improvements continued, on to the next slide. So this slide highlights 4 capital improvements for the middle school over the summer. Creating a 30-by-30 gravel base to support the expansion of the middle school outdoor classroom. This was a Fund for Learning grant that I partnered with Mrs. Brown, Melissa Brown, our curriculum coordinator, as well as some parents who are volunteers in the garden. This is, with COVID again, we really saw a need for outdoor space that is usable. And there's a section near the edible garden, if you walk a little bit towards the tennis courts, where it's pretty level, but we could make it better, and we purchased with, again, the Fund for Learning grants combined, middle school budget and the Fund for Learning grant did purchase some tables, some great outdoor tables, picnic tables that we feel just needs a little bit of a level gravel base to support that expansion. We're taking it little by little, and we do have that built in for a capital improvement, which we are excited about, and our students and staff will be really looking forward to use that hopefully as soon as the fall. Also, a single-use bathroom in room 223 That will support some functional life skills that students need to learn in a program where teachers do require a bathroom in that classroom to work on those skills. And as Ms. Hunger mentioned, some bottle filler stations, which provide each floor of the building. These three, coupled with what we have now, would provide each floor of the building with 3 filtered stations on each floor, and greatly reduce single-use plastics and promote hydration and wellness. And this has been a multi-phase project. We have 4 currently, and those 3 would be, and removing the old ceramic water fountains from, I believe they're from the 60s, those are no longer in service. So we would cap those and install the new filling stations, and we'd be all set.
So do you predict there's going to be a line of classes that are going to want to use that outside classroom space?
We have a sign-up genius that we use for outdoor spaces. That's going to be popular.
It's going to be a negotiation, I bet.
That's going to be a negotiation, but I think the sign-up genius is helpful. We use the
That'll be
basketball
good.
court, we use
Sure.
the playground picnic tables, those picnic tables. But yeah, in
That'd be
the
nice.
spring and in the fall, that will be a very popular
Really
spot.
nice.
Yeah.
With the HVAC system coming online in
Yeah.
the next few years, hopefully, will we be able to use the courtyard as well for flexible space?
We use the courtyard for a flexible space. The only issue with the courtyard is it really lends itself to quieter activities because
Windows.
all of
Yeah.
the
Right,
all
but
of the
with
windows along the
HVAC,
perimeter.
The windows will be closed.
Yeah, that would be helpful. That would be great. Yeah, that would allow it to a little bit more flexibility in terms of how it's used. Yeah, right now it's journal writing, art class goes out there quite a bit. But if you really want to get into a heated debate, you can't go out in the courtyard. No, you wouldn't be so popular. Civics can't go out there right now. But that's a great point. It's a great point. I think that's it for me.
Yeah,
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Very excited. Mr. Plumbo.
Hello and good evening.
Good evening.
I'm a little shorter than Don. Not as short as Rachel, probably somewhere in the middle, medium.
Goldilocks.
Exactly.
You are our Goldilocks.
And I'm excited to present our budget this evening. There is a lot of fun activity taking place at the high school. Before I begin, I want to thank the entire community for their support this past weekend. We opened our show. It was phenomenal. Tremendous community effort to pull that off. And it was just so nice to be in the auditorium again, full house. I was actually thinking, that March 14th through 17th, 2 years ago, we were going back and forth. Do we have one more production of The Little Mermaid?
Yep.
And then, of course, we closed schools in person and we worked remotely. So it was a long time coming, and our students were just amazing. So thank you to everyone who worked to make that possible. This first slide here is our budget for the upcoming school year as compared to last year's budget. You will notice there are some slight changes. I'm going to speak to those, and then in the slides there'll be additional information about specific categories. In terms of contractual services, the high school is a little bit different than the other 2 buildings. You'll notice that we've got a slight increase in our services. This year we've worked to add some programming as part of our operating budget for families. Specifically, we've been working very closely with an organization called WordCraft that's run by Wendy Freed in town. She provided volunteer services for a number of years, and students and families were always asking for more. And it's very difficult to ask for more when folks are volunteering, right? So we worked with Wendy and WordCraft to come up with a proposal for the upcoming school year that would intensify and support the work that she does with our high school seniors as they prepare their college admission essays. So we're very excited, and I would say that accounts for the most significant portion of that increase in that line. The other big change, I would say, is our BOCES services. We send students each and every year to the Center for Vocational Training, and that number is a fluid number in terms of the total number of students who travel over there. The cost per student before transportation is somewhere in the range of $16,000 to $18,000. So each year, that does fluctuate a bit. There are wonderful programs. We are sending a cohort over there next year. The cohort, as we anticipate it now, is a little bit smaller. Those account for our big changes in next year's budget. Our enrollment next year, we're currently at about 568. We're going to be at 596 next year. I have a few notes that I wanted to share on that. We're gaining about 10 students from Pecanico's current 8th grade class next year. That accounts for 50% of the students in Pecanico who will be attending public high schools next year. They happen to have a large, not large, but a significant group that are going to be attending some private schools, so it looks like we split the remaining students with the other partner school, which is Briarcliff High School. We also currently have 2 applications for our tuition in program. We're in the process of reviewing those. We're going to share information with families about the status of those applications. We hope to make decisions in early June, relative to those. So, that's exciting. And as far as our incoming 9th grade, Mr. Mara is sending over a large group, and we're very excited to work with them. We're in the process now of developing or in the initial stages, developing our master schedule vis-a-vis the course registration process. So the next slide that I share, we'll speak a little bit to our staffing and the costs that are associated and the ways that our budget works to support, that work. Currently at the high school, we offer 280 unique courses scheduled in over 415 sections. One of the questions I get frequently during the budget period is, well, Joe, how many classes are kids taking at the high school? Typically, it's 6 to 7 courses. If you think about the science class, that eats up an additional period for the day, then there's a lunch period. And we do encourage students to consider a study hall or some downtime during the day so they can get some work started before the busy afternoons begin. As far as our counselors and the intensive work that they do as part of that process, it starts in December and it runs all the way through that first day of school in September. In fact, one of the requests that I get very often is, Joe, can we have more counselors in during the summer? So, one of the things that you'll notice if you're a high school parent is we do share a calendar that outlines the availability of the school counselors during those summer months to provide families with all the support that they need as they learn more about what their children's interests are and how they evolve, between course registration, which takes place now, and September. If you've worked with teenagers, those interests and needs may change, so we like to be as flexible as we possibly can with students as they develop their academic programs.
Mm-hmm. But
Now,
you've moved that schedule up so much earlier now, I would imagine it's a lot more helpful, because you're almost, the seniors, you moved that all up in the last few years, so it's much more helpful, I bet.
Yeah, so when I arrived, the master schedule was typically finished, I want to say, and that was 8 years ago, it's hard to believe it's been so long. That master schedule was completed sometime around the 3rd week of July.
Right.
We currently work to get that master schedule finished before we leave in the end of June. And then what we do is we spend the summer months kind of cleaning it up, moving some things around. Folks, it's not as simple as, I'm thinking about, Rachel's schedule, not to say that it's simple, but, there are many more options and mixed groupings between grade levels and elective courses. So when we plan the master schedule, there is a tremendous amount of balance. And then as students' needs evolve and their interests change, and we try to be as accommodating as we can, sometimes that looks a little bit different when the school year begins. One of the things we pride ourselves in Pleasantville is that we have an open door policy when it comes to our honors level courses and our AP courses and our dual enrollment courses. But open doors work 2 ways, right? Right? So we need to make sure that we're attentive to the needs of our students, as they approach September, and then we check in again in September, October, November to make sure that they have the supports they need in place and they're having a good experience. So those are significant drivers, in terms of, our staffing and, the support that we need to run the programs that we do. And I would say that if you had a conversation with local area, other boards of education or school administrators, you would find that, and this is a byproduct of our strategic plan in part, our wide array of elective offerings really provide students with unique opportunities here in Pleasantville. This next slide speaks a little bit towards staffing and a little bit towards contractual services. Like I mentioned a moment ago, we've worked to expand some of our student workshops. We're looking to do the same with families around the college process. That seems to be a lot of the conversation. Families are looking for support with the financial aid piece, with student interviews. So we look to do that, and we try to balance that with the wellness component. I had a 9th grade transition meeting with the class of 2026 last week, and I said, I'm going to purposely not speak about college during this meeting. You may have questions about it, and I understand, but we really want students to focus on their 4 years when they're here, and also, be well. The experience is, I think, just as important as the destination. So that was something we wanted to remind folks of, and that's part and parcel to what we do, in our family workshops, when we stress balance and we work with families. We've got tremendous counselors here in the building. Our newest additions are Marianne Flatley, who's working in a role as a K-12 SEL counselor, and Cami Purcell, who's taken over as our SAS counselor. They do tremendous work with students. I'm thinking about the work they do with our newcomers. We've had an influx of new students just in the last month or so. They've also been working with students since September, and some of the advisory and push-in work that Ms. Flatley does. Truly, we're very lucky to have all that in place. We've also had an emphasis on building safety this year, an increased emphasis. We've added a new safety officer, Ms. Stewart. You might notice her. She works right in the front of the building over there, and she's a presence in the building. She's already developed really wonderful relationships with students, which is phenomenal. So we're so lucky to have her, and we're so appreciative of the support the community's given us in order to create the safest possible environment for students here in the building, while keeping the doors open and allowing all the things that happen here, from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., really on a daily basis. It's like a whole nother world, once the school day ends. If I were to go forward one more slide here, to our materials and supplies. We've got some exciting work taking place specifically in our English and Social Studies department, big collaborative interdisciplinary effort this year. As far as our text resources, in math, you might notice in an earlier slide that the math or the textbook line was larger last year than it was this year. It's because the Big Ideas math program that we did was up for renewal last year. We tried to take a cyclical approach to that work. We don't have a similar online program up for renewal this year, but we are looking at some new texts. Specifically, we're looking at Between the World and Me, and a text called A Long Way Gone to support our DEIA efforts in the building, diversify our authors. We heard that from students current and students who graduated. They wanted different voices incorporated in the curriculum. I've got teachers who are very passionate about it, so it's a great fit. We're excited about that. Our consumables really run the gambit across the content areas, whether you're talking about a lab in science, a painting project in art, or even math this year. Big Ideas, high-tech computers, math online. They've also created some math journals. And I really do think the sweet spot of education is a blended approach, some online tools, some paper tools. So we're really excited to get those math journals, in the hands of students. I mentioned the fine and performing arts a moment ago. Tremendous opportunities for students to travel. Some of those traveling opportunities last year in terms of conferences were remote. This year, we're hoping that they are in person. We also send out groups to perform. We're waiting to find out what the spring will look like in terms of those performances. And then there are several showcases. We recently had some of our artwork featured over at the Katona Museum of Art, which was very exciting. And we're trying to sneak into the Armonk
Art show?
Our show, yes.
Okay, all
We're
right.
trying, we're working it. So, we are always looking to find new and exciting ways to showcase student work, so we're very excited about that. This upcoming year, we've got some new course offerings that we're very excited about. We heard from the community and from students last year that they were interested in a more clearly articulated path in computer science. So we are partnering with an organization called Project Lead the Way. You've heard us mention that before. George Lamar wrote a grant, got us over $10,000, for the upcoming year, which we'll use to complement the resources that we're putting in place as a district to support those efforts. Next year, we have a new course called Computer Science Essentials. It looks like we may have to run 2 sections of it. It's a great problem. We've got a lot of students who are signing up for it, which we're really excited about. We're also going to host a course in cybersecurity, which will be great. The intended audience for the cybersecurity class will be students who are going to be enrolled next year who have already completed Computer Science A. And then in the second year of our rollout, we'll be looking to introduce a third component, which is our Computer Science Principles course. So very exciting work, and we can't wait to get that off the ground. The other thing I wanted to point out, I know students have asked a lot of questions about dual enrollment courses and how we increase the offerings. And they've voiced some displeasure around the AP experience in some of their courses. We are introducing a second leg of an AP class next year, and it's really a non-traditional AP course. It's the AP Seminar and Research. We piloted the program this year. We heard from students that they enjoyed the course and they wanted to continue. The course culminates with a writing project, so it's not a traditional AP course in the sense that you sit down for the same exam. And within the writing project, you have a significant amount of autonomy to pursue research in an area of study that you are interested in. So we are very excited to offer students that opportunity. And what we've been able to do, and this was the downfall of, like, let's say our local humanities research course, is you can take that research course in lieu of the English class for the grade that you're enrolled in if that's something you'd like to do, which is great for students because we can offer more opportunities. What we can't do is add periods to the day, right? So when you think about, a pie and you cut it up and you divide it among, all the things that students want to do, this really provides students with an opportunity to jump in. So we're very excited to continue that track, and that AP seminar part was first, the AP research will be second, and like I said, it's really a non-traditional AP offering that students are excited about.
I'm just curious, is that replacing, or is the humanities research still going to exist, or is
So what will happen is the humanities research is going to phase out.
Okay.
And what I've heard from students, and this is the biggest challenge with humanities research and with science research, is that you take that course in addition to the core content area class that you're taking simultaneously. So for example, if you're in science research, you may be taking honors chem, you may be taking AP bio, which really creates a challenge in terms of the day and the workload. So we're really excited to provide students with that opportunity. In terms of professional development, in order to support the new courses that we're introducing and to enhance instruction that takes place in the classroom, there's a significant amount of work that needs to be done with our faculty. We do have teachers who will be attending AP institutes this summer. We have faculty who will be enrolled in summer institutes for our dual enrollment offerings. I want to speak real quickly to the request for more SUPA classes. It's just not that easy. There's an extensive process to get teachers approved to be adjunct professors in the universities that we partner in. So we're currently exploring a few areas, for that in the future. Specifically, we're looking at their psychology offering, we're looking at their sociology offering, and we're also looking at their science research offering. One of the reasons we look at their science research offering is there seems to be a little more flexibility in the SUPA program than we're currently experiencing in the SUNY Albany program. However, in an effort to potentially run those programs, we need to send teachers to get certified so they can engage in the application process. I think we were able to do the 2 courses that we introduced this past year so quickly because they were pilot courses, and SUPA was really interested in getting them, running in schools. In fact, like I've mentioned before, in terms of our Intro to African American course and our Women and Gender Studies courses, we were the only high school in the state that was able to run those courses this year. So, certainly we're interested in continuing to move in that direction, and we want to make sure we do work so that it's done well. We also have
Mr.
significant...
Palumbo, can you just expand on that too, that the way you're going to offer the 2 SUPA classes next year?
Oh, good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this past year, Syracuse asked us to only offer those courses in the fall. And they did that. I can't really explain why they did that, but they wanted them in the fall. This upcoming year, they've given us the leeway to run one of the offerings in the fall and one in the spring. So what that will do is it will allow a student who's interested in taking both courses, to have a little more space in their schedule and be able to take those as an experience. Now, the biggest question that I've received, from folks recently around that is, well, Joe, how will that impact the senior internship? Because many of our students enrolled in the SUPA courses are seniors. Syracuse was fine with our end date for the course and the beginning of the internship experience, so that will not be an issue. And then the other thing is, and I made that point about seniors a moment ago, these universities, although students want more of these experiences, they're very particular about the grade levels, where students can enroll for these courses. So, whereas we have open doors and we let students into many of our courses, earlier than it might be suggested, SUPA, and other university partners have a different philosophy. So, you can petition, but, any student who's, like, let's say in the 9th or 10th grade, would more likely than not make it through the process if they were looking to take one of those SUPA courses earlier on in their high school experience. And then we've got some national and state conferences. The nice thing about all the work that we've done via Zoom is that has significantly reduced the costs for having teachers participate in conferences, whether they happen here in New York, or happen nationally. Each year, we kind of look to see where the National Conference for Teachers of English takes place and where the Social Studies Conference takes place, and we look to make some decisions about where we might strategically, best invest our money and send folks to engage in some professional learning. In terms of our facilities and our equipment, I mentioned the show, being in the auditorium a few moments ago. One of the greatest things about Pleasantville is, that we have these amazing productions. The lights that we are using for this current show, many of them are rented. And the reason we rented lights is the lighting system that we have. The lights themselves are the old gel lights. We would like to transition to more LED lighting. I'm currently working with Mr. Chow and Steve Chamberlain. We are trying to secure a spec. As soon as we get that spec, we will go out to bid. Some of that work will be done with money in this year's budget. We would then probably, I guess in future years, look at our sound system in there, but we'll do the lighting first. The lighting component is important. The LED lights are more cost effective, and they're safer. So I think that's important. 3 years ago, we nearly had a fire in the auditorium because what we learned is that we were putting too many of the old lights on the rack that we have in there. In other words, we were just plugging too many things in. So now we have a more clear process in terms of determining what gets plugged in and what types of lights are being used. And I think ultimately that LED transition will be a great thing.
They're also much cooler.
They are.
You don't
cooler.
sweat as much.
Yeah, lots of benefits. In terms of our fitness center, the Board of Education and the community made an investment in that space, about 4 years ago. We do annual maintenance in there. Our television studio, we're getting some new equipment this year. Part of that equipment will be used for the work that we do with local educational television. Students will have an opportunity to use some of that. We host a course every day in TV production, so we're really excited to update that space for our students. And then a lot like the other buildings, we're looking at additional water filling stations here at the high school. Those are very popular. We currently have 2 in the building. One is located right near the gymnasium. The other is located near our cafeteria. So we're going to look to put some on our middle floor and on our top floor. We do not have an HVAC project in our budget this year. Hopefully, that'll happen someday. It does get warm here too. I'd say the difference here is there are some areas that are cooled and there are some areas that are not cooled, but that's something that we'll look at, in later budget cycles, specifically for I think the 400 area, the social studies department upstairs in our building. That is our operating budget for, our projected operating budget for next year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just want to thank the building principals and Mr. Chow and everyone else that works on our budgets. I think it's a great opportunity to get a full picture of all of the things that make Pleasantville unique and wonderful and continue our programs, and again, anywhere where we have substantial changes. Our next board meeting, we will have our technology, special education, and athletics will come to us and do the same thing. So we are on our budget road.